We're just waiting for one more guy. It's going to be about 5 minutes. Is that all right? He's on his way. It's crazy how much cars cost now. Cars? But the hoser. Okay, this meeting is called to order at 6:08, December 16th. Let's pledge allegiance. Roll call noted, Mike. Public comment. This is the period for anybody that wants to speak on something that's not in the agenda.
Marty Richmond?
Oh, he's open. Public comment's open.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, Marty Richmond from Hollister. First, let me wish you all a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holiday, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, everything in the book. Enjoy your holiday season. So recently, I had a couple of things happen that proved that I was not the master of my own fate. One of them was I had to come back into town during rush hour here a couple of weeks ago during the driving rain. I had to come down Route 25 and did the whole 60 minutes it took me to go from 101 down into Hollister, cursing the cog board for not fixing Highway 25. And some other things happened. And today I got a letter from Social Security telling me that I'm going to get in my Social Security, which I worked for 50-something years for, I'm going to get the exact same amount of money I got last year, to the penny. Okay? And then I went and just for fun, I opened up my little spreadsheet I keep to see how my expenses are going, whether or not they are staying exactly the same as they were last year. And I found out that I'm paying a CPI improvement for, the rates in San Francisco, which we don't even have, for my sewer, and I'm paying an enormous increase for my water, and I'm paying an enormous amount of taxes for the Gavilan College, which I haven't seen them put $1 into this community yet. Still waiting for that, and all the other things. So I am not the master of my own fate, and it occurred to me at the same time that the county is not the master of its own fate, and you have been appointed to these positions because people trust your judgment. And I ask you to talk to the people who appointed you and say, look, we've got to do something about changing the environmental laws here in California. It is ridiculous that people who live in San Diego and cannot show and are not required to show any impact from anything we do can come up and sue the hell out of everybody here and so run up millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of wasted money because they don't like what we're doing environmentally. Now, if you're impacted by what we do, you certainly should have a right and do have a right to sue. But, we've got people like the Audubon Society. We got people like endangered species folks who sued the heck out of PV2. And even though you may say they won, we all lost. Those millions and millions of dollars, you are going to pay for those in your electricity bill. To have the President of the United States sit over in France and talk about global warming and how we're going to get off fossil fuels is a joke if you cannot build solar farms anywhere in the United States because the environmental folks object to them in the desert because of the tortoises. They object to the windmills up on the mountains where the wind blows because of the birds, and they object to the ones out in the ocean because of the tide. So we have to change that law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, public comments closed. Consent agenda. Anybody? Board members? Do we approve it and make a motion to approve the agenda?
I will move.
You move?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to continue the public hearing from, is it November 18th? Was the 18th of last month? We had a meeting, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to open the public comment again. It's going to be public comment. It's not going to be a public hearing. So if you spoke last time, don't repeat yourself. If you got new information, the board would like to hear that. Don't elaborate on the stuff that was said already, so we can make it short and sweet. So public comment is open on the TS 1387, the Hobart West and Eaton project in Southside Road.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just introduce the project for the record.
Okay.
That this is TSM 13-87 and TSM 1388. This item was continued at the Planning Commission on November 18th, 2015, and continued now to this special meeting, December 16th. In your packet Since that meeting, there are 3 additional pieces of correspondence, 2 from the L&G law firm on behalf of the applicant and 1 from the Breen law firm on behalf of the Tres Pinos Water District. That one also includes the moratorium analysis conducted in 2008. Staff has not changed their recommendation regarding this project, which is to not approve the project. However, should the Planning Commission wish to approve, we have prepared an additional condition and an additional finding for you to make, along with the findings and conditions that are already found in your staff report. So that's concludes what staff has to say at this time. I do have a couple of minor modifications to 2 other conditions, which, if we get down the road, I can read into the record for you.
Yes, and we pursuant to the Brown Act, we are opening it for public comment for the 3 minutes per speaker. And I know that the chair just wanted to recognize that the Planning Commission heard all the comments that were received, heard and considered all the comments that were received last time. So it's just encouraged that there's not a redundancy in repeating the information that the Planning Commission's already heard.
Okay. So, open the public comment. Any speakers?
Good evening. I'm Ed Schmidt from the Tres Pinos Water District. I was at work last time, so that's why I couldn't be here. But it was important to me, but my job kept me there. The mitigated negative deck did not do a proper job, in my opinion. I think it underestimated a lot of stuff. I didn't think it made it clear we have 1 well. And if we lose 1 well, we don't know what we're going to do. And even if there's enough water in the basin, as the applicant has suggested or implied, there's still only 1 tank. Then there's a poor, dilapidated water treatment system. Sewer's antiquated. We have effluent levels that's out of compliance, okay? And we're hoping for a long-term plan to address those issues. We're not compliant with fire suppression standards. The MMD did not even discuss fire standards at all. It just said they need to apply for service. Although the applicant cites facts to support plenty of water, recently other wells in our area have failed. As you know very well, the well that you put in, the county put in for Stonegate, is 50 gallons per minute. Okay, not a lot of water. Haynes property right by us, their well went dry. Okay, still our ponds are 50 yards away from the San Benito River. We can't be putting a bunch more of effluent in there. We don't want those to spill into the river. The price to upgrade will probably exceed $2 million, and at the current connection fees for 21 homes, we'd only generate $483,000, and that's quite a bit under what we're going to get. So there's a big deficit. And as you know, our community is a disadvantaged community. Our water district made a survey. We found out that the average income per house was like under $30,000. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect people that make under $30,000 to pay for the excess amount of a project that the impact fees aren't going to cover. The applicant has not made an offer to help, not a reasonable offer, in our opinion, enough money to make it worth our while at this point. If you approve this project, there's an expectation of service, and we're not sure we can provide this service. And we're afraid that if we do provide the service, okay, if we don't, and you force us to, we're going to be in a situation there could be litigation. You can put us in a situation where we're going to have to force our poor customers to pay for that. And when I say poor customers, a lot of people hear that, they think I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, we've investigated, and that's the situation with our populace in our district. We cannot afford, we can't have them afford to pay for upgrades that someone else makes happen. That's not acceptable. And you know very well with Stonegate, our neighbor, with Rancho Larios, when you didn't take care of the water situation, we need to make sure that it was available. There was a disaster. And other times you've done a great job. Okay, right on Fairview right now, you have a project going in. But that project, those developers, they offer to help out by quite a bit. So please don't push us into a corner and force us to do something, and then later on we might get sued by those new people. So I appreciate you very much thinking of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lou Medeiros? Louder.
Lou Medeiros.
He's at a meeting still.
Oh, okay. Christine Green.
Good evening, Christine Breen. I'm counsel for Tres Pinos Water District. I spoke with you at the last meeting. I wanted to address one point. Much information has been submitted to you in the last few weeks about the alleged abundance of water in Tres Pinos, but what has not received nearly enough attention and is in the document before you is the fact that the district is not meeting its current effluent levels, which are mandated by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. They're not meeting them not because they're refusing to or because they're ignoring the board's water discharge requirement order. They're not able to meet them because this is a system that was constructed over 50 years ago, and with a district as small as this one with 110 customers, the economies of scale simply do not permit or provide for the district to be able to bear that kind of expense to increase capacity sufficient at this time to accommodate the proposed development. The proposed development would increase current capacity by 20%. So we know, based on the document you have before you, that the district is not able to meet the current requirements in servicing the sewage generated by its current customers. And we also know that staff has pointed out it's unknown whether the district's going to be able to meet those requirements in the future. And those requirements are going to become stricter in September of 2016. Fortunately, we have a new general plan, and that general plan requires, as part of this process, that the county ensure that the water supply, treatment, and delivery facilities are sufficient prior to approving new development. It also requires that the county ensure that the wastewater collection treatment is sufficient to serve existing communities prior to approving new development. The current mitigation measure contained in the document before you simply passes the buck on to Tres Pinos Water District, but it's insufficient. It improperly defers mitigation because it does not set forth with sufficient specificity what performance standards would be necessary in order to take on a significant increase in capacity. I've submitted a letter that Mr. Turner referenced, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, anyone?
I have one for Christine. You had talked last time, I think, about a grant funding for a study in the future next year.
There's what I referred to last time was that there is in place currently a long-term wastewater management plan. We are in phase 2 of that now. Wallace Group, who submitted a report along with my submittal to you, has just given an update on that progress. So what phase 2 is doing, what Wallace Group is basically doing on behalf of the district, is evaluating the current state of the system and what upgrades are going to be necessary to help it comply with the current water discharge requirements and allow it to accommodate growth and an increased capacity for the system going forward. So the phase 2 results are expected in spring of 2016, and following that report, we will be in a position, hopefully with Wallace Group's assistance, to apply to Water Resources Control Board for grant funding to actually implement that capital project.
Thank
So
you.
that's where we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Sargent?
Being number the third person, I'm afraid I'm going to be a little bit more redundant. Some of the points have already been made. Hello, my name is Mike Sargent. I've been on the Tres Pinos Water Board for just about a year. Let me say at the outset that I welcome responsible growth for our small community that could be a source of partnerships to help update our current systems. Although our board may have been reluctant in the past to support growth by continuing the moratorium, that's not the case now. Presently, we're in phase 2, which you've heard, of a long-term waste treatment plan with the state of California. Wallace Group, which she's alluded to, of San Luis Obispo, is currently working on coming up with the details and the costs to bring our non-compliant waste and water system up to new standards. We secured a grant, which she has also alluded to actually help pay for this administration costs from a small district, water districts, to help with the cost to fund the Wallace Group, but also the administrative costs for local administration to help to fill in some of the necessary detail that they're going to be requiring. This long-term water waste treatment plan will include not only suggestions for upgrading our sewer ponds, which is not a treatment plant. This is a pond. It's not in compliance. But it's also what to do with our untreated well water, which does not meet wastewater standards for salts and nutrients. What that means is our drinking water isn't even acceptable to be put through our ponds right now because of the high levels of salt and materials. And that's part of the plan we're going right now. Always on the edge of financial solvency due to unusual low water and sewer rates, we have instituted within the last year a major increase in our rates to bring to our struggling district much-needed funds for future improvements that we know we're going to be needed. Although we still have inadequate emergency reserves, we're headed in the right direction. With some increase in operating funds, we've begun to update our fire suppression system, which is woefully inadequate even for our current current customers. We got one well, as you've heard, one 50,000-gallon tank, which I understand can be drained in about 30 to 40 minutes if it's on one house, and an old system of delivery pipes and fire hydrants from the 1960s, many which have leaks, questionable functionality. In the past, this board might have been comfortable with an old system and pleaded for lack of funds, but we've actually begun and embarked on a program of replacing these aging hydrants and bringing some new technology to monitor our tank levels and our pond levels. These are not the actions of a no-growth board. All we're asking for is to continue with our long-term plan, and we welcome new customers in the near future when we can adequately service them. Thank you.
Marty Richmond?
Hi, Marty Richmond again. From Hollister. Paraphrasing the previous speaker, the previous boards didn't want any growth, but we really want growth now. So we've gone 26 years and done nothing, but we're doing a lot right now. We're doing a study. A study doesn't deliver anything. I was accused by somebody last week who, on this issue, who I bumped into, of saying, I don't want people to pay their fair share. That will be the day. I always ask people to pay their fair share. But we all know what a real fair share is. If your child is the last child in San Benito High School, and San Benito High School is full, they cannot charge you $125 million to build a new high school so that your child can go to school. That's not the way the system works. We've had people come up here and say they're broke, and the new development will only put in $400,000 when they need $2 million. Well, $400,000 is a lot of money, and you cannot charge a whole new sewer system, and you cannot charge a whole new water system to the last person that comes in. Just like you cannot charge a whole new high school to the last person who builds a house who sends their child to San Benito High School, and it's full. The system does not work like that. Everybody benefits from a new sewer system, and they should have had one years ago because they're polluting the very ground they're talking about. And they should have had a new water system, and they should have had a new fire suppression system. And I agree with a previous speaker who opposes this, who says we didn't charge enough money. So therefore, because we didn't charge enough money, we'll take it out on the next guy who wants to come along. Is that fair? I don't know what people make in Tres Pinos. I understand they did an informal survey. Last time I looked at the U.S. Census, I was not prepared for this, so I didn't bring the numbers. Last time I looked at the U.S. Census, The house values in Tres Pinos were very high, much higher than the average house values in Hollister, and they put in a $100 million sewer system. Look, this is a big problem. I don't disagree with the person who came here and said we don't have adequate water and it isn't clean water, and we only have one well. How much does it cost to drill a well? Now, this is San Benito County. This is not New York City. We know what it costs to drill a well. $15,000 or $20,000? They've drilled a well. They know where they drilled the well. They drilled the well at Stonegate. They know what it costs to drill a well. They know what it costs to put a pump in. It isn't $1 million, not in San Benito County. And we could put in a well. If we only got one well in Tres Pinos, because that's what basically they said, that's all we can do. The board's been irresponsible. And at some time, you've got to stop covering for the board. I don't know if this will go, I will wrap up by saying, I don't know if it'll go to litigation, but you should not run interference for him on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
John Frisetta.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Frisetta. I'm a board member for Tres Pinos School District. First off, I will say Tres Pinos School District did not have a representative at the last meeting, if only because we were uninformed. That does not mean that we do not care or that we had a lack of interest. We have a strong interest. According to the developer, they're going to add 21 houses and that 8 new students are supposed to be added. To any practical person, 8 new students for 21 houses seems a little odd. After going through and comparing to other algorithms used at the Rakovich Housing Project as well as the Santana Ranch Project, for those amount of houses we would hit 34 new students under Rakovich or 12 under Santana. The number 8 is obviously too low, and a new thought needs to be made on that. On top of that, that algorithm only looked for K through 6, and Tres Pinos School goes all the way up to 8, as well as includes a transitional kindergarten. For the developer to not look into the fact of what the school serves shows a lack of caring and clarity and consistency in planning forward. Excuse me for my notes. To add that many students would show that we would have to add a whole new classroom. The buildings are pretty much full over there at Tres Pinos School District. Impact fees would cover about 40% of what it would cost to add a whole new building. Tres Pinos School District would have to eat the rest of it. So it'd be nice to look towards the developer to help fill that fiscal hole. Beyond that, adding that amount of students as well as houses would add a lot to the traffic. As you all might know, Tres Pinos School sits right there, and there's the bike path on the other side of Airline. Many students cross that road every day. Adding more traffic could, of course, add to more fear of an accident occurring. Beyond that, it would add to heavy traffic towards where Airline and Southside cross. Adding more students and more youth could imply that kids would move towards the mini mart as well as other commercial offerings in the Tres Pinos proper. To add buildings there would make a blind spot even more obfuscated. We need to, Tres Pinos School District's number one priority is the safety of the students. When a student leaves the school, we're responsible for them until they get home. And to add more dangers on that road is something that we have to be on the lookout for. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fazetta?
Yes.
How many students are at Tres Pinos right now?
Approximately 112.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission. Paul Ravella here on behalf of the project applicant Humboldt West and John and Jay Eade. You've heard some developing themes tonight, one of which is disadvantaged communities, another is system limitations, and then the last one is some other impacts, for example, children in schools. I think the staff report adequately addresses the school issue. If there is 112 kids at Tres Pinos School District, on their website it says that 35% of them are inter-district transfers, meaning they live outside of the district. About 45 kids don't live in Tres Pinos Water District or Tres Pinos Water School District that go to school there. So I think the staff report adequately addresses that. With regard to disadvantaged communities, we're talking about a district that's objecting to the possibility of obtaining $500,000 in connection fees. That's what this project would generate, approximately $483,000. I've got records that were given to me under Public Records Act requests from Tres Pinos Water District. In 1990, EMC Planning, the county's current general plan consultant, representing 4 private property owners, including Steve Wolpert and Mary Noble, offered to pay for all improvements necessary at that time to the sewer system by the Tres Pinos Water District in accordance with the recommendations of Swanson Oswald Associates, their engineer. 1992, Jason Noble family offered to provide a backup well at no charge to the water district. And when the well that he had identified was insufficient, he offered a well site free of charge right next to that well. July 2005, Mr. Eade and a gentleman named Gerald Posey offered to pay at least $200,000 to the district for a new well, pump, backup generator, and other improvements at the discretion of the Tres Pinos Water District. 2007, Mr. Eade offered to purchase a 270,000-gallon storage tank to the water district based on a quote that the district obtained from BH Tank Incorporated. July 2008, Mr. Eade and Mr. Posey offered to pay the water district's cost to tie into the Stonegate system for an emergency interconnection, something that's been in the works since the early 90s. July 2015, Tres Pinos Water District more than doubled their connection fees from $11,000 to $23,000 based on a survey of surrounding districts without a nexus study, which would generate $500,000 in connection fees. So we're disadvantaged, but we're not accepting any offers to take care of our problems free of charge. Wastewater treatment, the effluent issues, I should note here that the water coming out of the ground in the Tres Pinos Basin is cleaner than the water coming out of the ground for the city of Hollister. Also, that system is newer than many parts of the city of Hollister's water delivery system, which predates it by 7-8 years. Other than the moratorium self-imposed by the Tres Pinos Water District, there has been no restriction, prohibition, limitation, or ban on new connections by the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board, under whose order this long-term waste management plan is being prepared. So they can't be that bad. There's a couple other issues on some conditions that the county is preparing based on prior discussions. I don't know if I should address that now or when, if it gets to that point, but I have those here. And so just to sum up, I thank you guys for your consideration. Some of the folks opposing this project as residential were here 7-8 years ago when it was proposed to be a hotel, saying that it should be residential. And so we asked the board, the Planning Commission, to take that into consideration and to approve this project tonight. Thank you. Oh, if there's any questions, I'm available.
Thank you.
John Eade.
How you doing this evening?
Good.
Good.
Thank you for letting me talk. I'm going to discuss some new...
Please state your name.
John Eade.
For the record.
I want to discuss some of the new requirements that they added on here at the last minute. It has to do with the indemnity requirements. Staff is recommending condition of approval for a deposit of $20,000 within 15 days of approval as a litigation defense fee, which is to be increased to $250,000 if there is litigation over our project. This is an $83,000 per acre fee. We object to the addition of this new condition. This is a radical, unprecedented condition of approval. It has never been required by San Benito County, and we are unable to locate any other city or county that requires this in California. We are told this deposit is being requested for 2 reasons. Because of the county's recent legal issues with Citadel Oil, having to pay approximately $300,000 to opposing counsel and spending more money to recover those amounts from Citadel under their indemnity agreement. Because this property has been subject to prior litigation and there appears to be controversy surrounding water for this project, they're requiring these exorbitant fees. Almost every project faces controversy. Just look at what the Panoche Valley Solar Farm is going through, yet the county made no demands for litigation defense fee from PV2. If this is a new countywide policy, then it should be considered and adopted by the Board of Supervisors, not the Planning Commission. The county should keep in mind the chilling effect that such a policy would have on economic development and job growth. Who will want to waste their money trying to bring their projects here if staff is going to propose an $83,000 per acre litigation defense fee at the first sign of controversy? If the county is worried about our ability to perform the indemnity obligations because of Citadel's sins, we have already proven that we are not Citadel. In 2008, our Spur Hotel project was challenged in the courts, and we settled petitioner's attorney fee claim for $20,500 and paid it in full. For the period of from 11/2007 to 11/2008, we were charged $43,650 by our attorneys, which we paid. We never refused to pay the entirety of the county's legal fees. We took issue with the grossly inflated amounts charged by Hogue, Fenton, and Appel, which were not disclosed to us until 6 months after they were incurred. Hogue, Fenton, Jones, and Appel charged the county a total of $131,546 in legal fees for the same for a 9-month period, more than double the legal fees of the petitioner and our attorneys combined. Hogue, Fenton, Jones, and Appel's rates were $345 to $450 per hour in 2008. In other words, going back down, I took him to an arbiter and got him reduced to $70,000 and paid that off. And all I want to say is that if you want to shut down San Benito County, just start tacking on $83,000 an acre indemnification fees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lou Medeiros? No more cards, but besides the one that is for the person not present.
Okay. So public comment can be closed? Okay. So we'll just discuss them among ourselves. What does the board wish to do, or questions for anybody?
I don't have any.
Any other questions? Dan?
I feel a little bit disadvantaged because I was in Colorado the last time you guys talked about this whole thing. But as regards the impact fees for schools, isn't that something that's set by the state per square foot of residential?
The impact fees for schools are charged and set by the school district themselves. And so then the county collects those funds on behalf of the school district. So the county doesn't set those fees, the school district does.
Right. But the district charge, because I just got done paying one of these big fees. As I understand it, the amount charged per foot is something that's set by state law. Then the school districts are the ones that calculate that. In other words, it doesn't vary district by district. It's the same fee. It's so much for commercial, so much for residential.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that different districts have different fees.
Okay. And then this thing that Mr. Reed brought up at the end about these financial assurances, that would be some type of a bond or some kind of financial posting?
It may be possible to work out some arrangement with the county, but it is right now. It's written as a deposit, unless that was modified. So that would be a deposit of funds with the county. But it'd be possible to have a letter of credit, for example, from a bank to be perhaps issued. We have done that with another project that had improvements that need to be made, and there was a letter of credit issued to the county. So right now it's written as a deposit. You could add some language or other form acceptable to the county counsel's office or to the county auditor's office, for example. Other financial assurances acceptable to the county auditor. perhaps to give a little bit more discretion about whether to accept a letter of credit in the future. I can address further, if you'd like, about how that sum was arranged at, though, based upon our prior litigation history. It was the amount that the county determined was necessary based upon the expenses that were incurred both in the Citadel matter and also in the Stonegate matter, which was a simpler case, and there was $153,000 in attorney's fees awarded in that case, and that had it was a much simpler case in that matter.
Okay, but the county, I mean, per the indemnity condition of approval, which is the first condition, condition number 1, Mr. Reed would already have to indemnify the county for attorney's fees.
Right.
So
it's very important that we get a deposit up front. This is something that I think.
I know. If I could just finish. So Mr. Reed is already obligated, or upon approval, with that condition.
Yes.
Mr. Reed would already be obligated to indemnify the county for all attorney's fees and costs. So therefore, if he does this, then this added financial assurances protection may never come to fruition, meaning that's not extra money that he would have to pay. He already has to pay. He already has to indemnify the county. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, and that he would.
Because he said we're adding $83,000 per acre onto development fees. I just don't think that's accurate. I think instead it's an assurance to the county that in the event of a suit, he's going to indemnify the county, which would already be obligated to do. But it's not additional money.
That's true. Any amount that wasn't expended would be refunded at the end of the process.
Okay. Those are all the questions I had.
Anybody have questions?
Joe?
Go ahead.
Or maybe I'm looking at this too simply. It doesn't seem to matter really how much groundwater we have or how full the groundwater basin is. It seems that the delivery system has got to be adequate in order to fulfill that. Part of the question would be, and I think Pat kind of alluded to that last time, if we overburden the system and it creates a problem with the system, could that even throw us into a CEQA situation or something like that, a tipping point? We have an inadequate fire suppression system. We have staff recommending that they cannot recommend approval for the project at this time. And we have inadequate information because we've got one side that's got skin in the game telling us it's one way, and we've got pretty much all the residents and everyone else saying something kind of different. So I'd like to see an outside third party come in short of an EIR, okay? And that might just be your survey guy that might be bringing in some information in the future. The problem is, a couple of problems with that is one, the project's kind of been on the hook for a while. And I'd have to ask the staff, does that take it back to the original hotel project, or does that just start at the residential time period, and why maybe would be a question of why that's taken so long. But staff's had general plans to deal with and many other issues that the public don't know about. So I probably understand that more than most. Essentially, if you cut it right down to the basis, we're supposed to approve these things if we have adequate services. It would be just like LAFCO saying, well, if the city does not have a service that they can provide, they're not going to annex new property in because it overburdens and they don't have the services. It seems to me Tres Pinos Water Company does not have the services. They do not have the ability to be able to provide for this project. And what worries me more is there's a fire suppression. They have no fire suppression really at all for this. Now, does that change in the future? Maybe with the new study, possibly. I mean, that could change. But right here, right now, we're supposed to say yes to these projects based on if the services are there, and it sort of clearly represents from the people that are in the system that they can't do that. Now, there's been a lot of other talk brought in about who lives next to what and how they manage the system and whether they're doing the right thing or anything else. My vote doesn't have to take that into play, because all I have to do is say, can you provide the service? And if you shake your head no, and I have staff backing me up saying that it's a no, then that's all my vote is. It's not about whether or not you're running the system correctly or whether you messed everything up for the last 26 years, which maybe you had. And that's for maybe a different court and a different venue than this area right here. But the way I see it, if you take it down to the simple, it doesn't appear to have services, or we don't have enough information to tell us that it has services, and staff can't openly recommend the approval of the project. So I say we continue this forward to a point where the study's been done and we have better information about what we're going to be voting on, and if we can actually say yes to the project or no to the project. Because I can't deny this right now. I don't feel good about pushing it to an EIR because of cost. So and I can't say yes to it because of all of the other issues. So I'd like to see us continue this forward to a point in time next year where we have better and more information. Yeah.
By the way, I just checked on those school district fees. It is the California Government Code and Education Code. It's $3.36 per foot for residential and 54 cents per foot for commercial, set by code, and then districts collect that.
Pat, any questions?
No, I haven't had any questions.
Now, if I understand this correctly, the water district, Trespenos Water District, can't deny water to them until they have an approved plan. So I think the water district being at this meeting is prematurely. Prematurely, because they have to get an approved set of plans before they can deny service.
Oh.
Right now, they're trying to deny service before they even get an approved set of plans. So, my opinion, I think the water district they had 30 years to fix a problem. Why are they coming now and say they're going to fix it? How long is it going to take, another 30 years? They're not giving no dates in the future. So I think that we should go forward and move this project forward. And if they don't like the decision, they can take it to the Board of Supervisors.
I think there's a good likelihood of that already.
Yeah. Either way. Yeah, because they're putting the carriage before the horse. They need the approved set of plans before they can even make an application to the water district. They're here to trying to get us to deny the project. If we approve something or don't approve the project, then everybody else that feels that they don't have to go through the proper channels. It's in their bylaws, from my understanding. So I think we should move forward with this project. The water district, they've been trying to deny or trying to get service for 30 years. Now they want to get service another 30 years. Not going to happen overnight. Maybe this will push them to move on the project and get service or apply, or sell the water company to someone that's lucrative enough to take care of all the burden. Hey, I know there's guys talking about poor people. My mom lives in a house, and we had to get a new well done. They put an assessment on the property to the water district, San Benito County Water Board, and she's paying $161 a month for water. That's the cost of living. We have to deal with that type of. Everybody in Hollister place at $200, $300 a month. Why are they different? Just because they don't have the money to sustain the system? Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should sell it off or let someone else take over. You know, we can't be denying projects because, we don't have the money. If that pump goes out tomorrow or the system fails, then everybody in that community, what are they going to do? Move out? Because they don't have the sanitation, they don't have drinking water, they don't have no water there. They're going to get the money somehow to repair it. So by pushing this project on, they're going to have to get the money somehow or start applying for grants or consider selling some other company that wants to take over, other treatment companies, other plants or water. We had to do that in our property. We gave it the rights out to the water district because we couldn't maintain it ourselves. So I think the board should just move forward with this project. And I think we should go for an approval.
Okay. May I ask a question?
Okay.
Byron, I had a question about condition 12, which does deal with water. It says, prior to recordation of the final map, the applicant shall obtain the necessary permits to connect the units to the water and wastewater treatment system of the Tres Pinos Water District. It sounds pretty simple, but shall obtain the necessary permits, does that mean that they would have to obtain those permits from the Tres Pinos Water District? In other words, they'd have to work it out with them?
Yes.
And if they didn't work it out, or if that ended up in some kind of a war, then the county would be out of that war, right?
Well, the condition of approval is that they're not getting their final map unless they work it out. And if it can't be worked out, then with the Tres Pinos Water District. So if it can't be worked out, then the county can never issue their final map, and the subdivision goes away.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the other thing is that
I'm really fine
they
with
need
that.
to apply for, they need to get approval of their tentative map before they can apply for permits from the water board. So
Yeah, that's
first step would be to get
Right.
tentative map approval, and then apply for permits.
Right, okay.
If they get rejected, then who knows what's going to happen. But
Okay. And then, County Council, Barbara, Condition 1, indemnification, did you have proposed revisions to that then, based upon the new financial assurances language?
We could add the language.
I didn't see that. Was that in
No,
the handout
that just
tonight?
came up this evening
Okay.
about, so you could say a deposit of $20,000 or other financial security acceptable to the county auditor. Oops, I'm writing.
But then Mr. Eade referenced a bump up in the event of something to 250.
Yes, that's correct.
And what's the trigger on the bump up?
Not less 5 days prior to the county's response of pleading in any litigation that is relating to the project approval. So, for example, if there was litigation that was filed, the record would start to be prepared. But if there was no early resolution of that, and the county actually does decide to answer that pleading, and the litigation is going to proceed forward, that's the trigger of it.
The filing of a complaint or a writ?
No, it's 5 days prior to the filing of the county's responsive pleading.
To the petition for writ of
Yes,
mandate?
yes.
So then what's the trigger for the 20 if that's the trigger for the 250?
The trigger for the 20 is right after planning commission approval. It's within 15 days of approval by the project by the planning commission, so that it's actually going to be in place early. And then if it's not appealed to the Board of Supervisors, or if no appeal is taken from the Board of Supervisors, then, if there's no litigation filed, it would be refunded. The deposit does not need to be made if there's no appeal filed with the Board of Supervisors. The deposit shall be refunded if there's either no appeal or there's no litigation filed challenging project approval.
See, I kind of agree with Mr. Eade on that. I don't like that part on the front. It's going to get appealed, but so what? Lots of stuff gets appealed.
This is a little bit different than some of the, I think that you are seeing the early stages of a broader county policy, because we have had the unfortunate situation recently of Citadel where the county has not been able to collect on the indemnification agreement, and the county's now out of pocket from its general fund approximately $262,000. And, you know, there was a signed indemnification agreement in that case. In addition, this is a project that's likely to be subject to legal challenge. Or could be challenged. There's opposition to the project. And also we are proceeding with a mitigated neg deck instead of an EIR, and some of the other large subdivisions already had reimbursement agreements in place, which the county does not require for mitigated neg deck, but most of the EIRs, pretty much every EIR that I can be aware of, is processed under a reimbursement agreement, which does have a deposit component to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a signed agreement as well, so.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, how do you guys feel about that? It seems to me that it should be on our dime through the board hearing.
Say that again?
I don't really see the appropriateness of shifting costs to an applicant as long as it's going through our mechanism, which is Planning Commission board. But once it goes to the board, if a petition for writ of mandate is filed in Superior Court, then absolutely, that's when indemnity should kick in, that's when a deposit should be appropriate and so forth. But said a different way, maybe from a different angle, how much more work is it from the county's level at the board hearing than you've already done to get here tonight? Is there a lot of additional costs we have to?
No, it's more of a strategic reason that if that condition of approval is going to be challenged by the applicant and they're not going to deposit that funds, that information is going to be known before it gets to the Board of Supervisors on appeal. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're going to flesh out that really fast, whether there's going to be compliance with the condition of approval. Rather than arguing about it after the Board of Supervisors approves the project.
Well, I'm not suggesting kicking the can down the road and arguing about it later. I'm just saying when should the trigger be?
Yeah.
For indemnification and for financial assurances in a situation like this. And my own feeling, it should be after the Board of Supervisors hearing. If there is an appeal, it's on the county's dime. County handles it, goes to the board hearing. Someone's not going to be happy, so a lawsuit's filed. That's when indemnity and cost recovery, I think, should kick in right then. But prior to that, I think it's all on the county's ride. What do you guys think?
I think it's sounds about right.
Commissioner Lowe, you've got some experience in this realm.
I agree with staff.
Do you want to see upon tonight?
Right.
Okay.
I kind of see your point, Dan. Should be kicked in
once you're finished with the county process.
Once you finish, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the county process should afford applicants an opportunity to have their applications heard and appealed if need be, and we see that through. And then if something goes badly after that, then okay, now we can start talking about indemnity and cost recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Is it appropriate for staff to set a financial upfront burden, though, on an applicant? Or should that have been approved at a higher level than us prior to it happening?
Yeah, like as was suggested. I don't disagree with that. I can tell you with firsthand experience dealing with Barbara and Byron on reimbursement agreements, that's a whole parallel universe that runs in concert with this is a development agreement, and then the county can set whatever financial assurances they want, deposits and amounts and all that stuff, and you just agree to it if you want to enter into a contract like that. And what they're saying is basically they want to interject some of those principles and concepts into the process that we're going through now, which is understandable. So we don't get left holding the bag on a Citadel, for example.
Right. One of the more recent reimbursement agreements has increased the deposit amount because of the experience with Citadel.
And only this far.
So
Just because we can't keep having this issue happen to the county where the county is, experienced losses that, are difficult to recover, and then the general fund is out that money. And then you have to have the litigation to try to recover under the indemnification agreement. Now, that's the key component that I wanted the Planning Commission to have the funding, the timing of when the deposit, that's a little bit more flexible. But the actual requirement that there be the deposit towards those costs is really, it's important to the county. And I think that the Board of Supervisors will support it when it gets to be a condition of approval if it gets appealed to the board.
Yeah, I think that.
But, you know, we'll find out if it does get appealed.
And it's the application fee itself that gets it to this level.
But define this in that sentence, this level, or the Board of Supervisors?
Well, the Planning Commission. It gets to the Planning Commission. Then, if it's appealed, that's an additional fee that will be paid by the appellant.
Is that part of our fee structure already, or is that part of the new thing that we're talking about?
No, that's part of our current fee structure.
Is that in the event of an appeal, then there's an additional kicker that goes on to the application fee?
There's an appeal. No, there's an appeal fee. So
the appellant?
Yeah, so the appellant has to pay the appeal fee, not the applicant.
But that fee for an appeal by an appellant isn't going to come close to covering the additional staff time and costs, right?
No, it doesn't.
Getting this thing all worked up for the Board of Supervisors. That's going to be a lot of time.
It used to be $500. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, so Commissioner Lowe is saying it used to be $500. That kind of proves my point. $500 isn't going to buy.
I believe we've amended that because that doesn't get us very far.
Yeah. So, well, what do y'all think?
Maybe that condition should be determined by the Board of Supervisors on the deposit and all that. Or
I'm comfortable making a motion with some of these changes and so forth, and articulating at least my view of a final financial assurance provision that can be included as an addition to condition number 1 on indemnity.
Sure, I could.
And it's going to go to the board anyway, so then they can tweak it and fix it however they want.
I could actually suggest a modification if that would be something that you would consider.
Okay.
Deposit of $20,000 or other financial assurance acceptable to county auditor. For potential defense, should the project be legally challenged, shall be provided to the County of San Benito within 15 days of approval of this project by the Board of Supervisors. The deposit shall be refunded if there's no litigation filed challenging project approval. The deposit amount should be increased to the amount of $250,000. The rest of the paragraph would remain the same.
Okay. And with that addition, I make a motion.
I would like to.
Oh.
Say a few words first.
I'll table my motion.
And also, I do have a couple of modifications to a couple of different conditions also before you make your motion.
Okay.
My concern with moving forward with this tonight is that I think we're kicking the can down the road. I mean, how many times have we seen a development come forward and say, just let us go on to the next step, because at the next step we can work everything out. Then we get to the next step and it doesn't get worked out, and it comes back before the Planning Commission, and at that time it said, well, why did you let us go forward? We've spent thousands more dollars to get to this point. I don't believe that the Tres Pinos Water District basically came forward prematurely. I believe they came forward because we were looking into CEQA and we asked certain questions for CEQA. I think that this is, the Water District told us where they stand truthfully, and I believe that we're putting the county in the middle of this fight now, and the county doesn't have a role in it. I just really believe, I mean, if we haven't learned the lesson with things like Stonegate and other things that it's cost the county a lot of money after the fact, I don't know when we're going to learn the lesson. And truthfully, to have the staff say they cannot recommend at this time, I can't remember more than maybe 4 or 5 times that's ever happened. So, I really feel strongly that we're not ready to move forward with this project.
So, Commissioner Lowe, so if you don't feel that we can move forward, do you feel like you can either reject the project or continue it?
What would we continue it for? I mean, I understand your point about waiting for more information, but I don't think that at this point we're not asked to be waiting for more information. We're asked to be making a decision.
Right.
And I do believe that it's, no matter what we decide, it's going to be appealed to the Board of Supervisors.
And I agree with everything you said before. I think it's just putting us in the middle of a battle that we don't belong in the middle of. And that's just one layer. So I was hoping for the other way to force it too is a full EIR. That brings all the information forward, but it's a financial burden. And so what I was doing is taking the road of lesser financial burden, more time in the game, and waiting for maybe better information elsewhere that might clarify some stuff and say, no, we can do this, or we absolutely can't. Maybe it's better just to reject.
I don't believe an EIR is going to give us any more information, and it would cost the applicant thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
agree.
The only reason I ever would say go forward with an EIR is because I believe that there is information out there that we don't have, and I don't believe at this time there is.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Commissioner Jeff?
It seems to me that, from the stuff that I've read, the water and sewer is the main issue. The water system, I think, is running at about 50% capacity, but they don't have redundancy, and they don't meet some state requirements or some local requirements that they're supposed to. And they have been in that condition for a long time. The sewer looks like it's running at 35% capacity, but it's not a good system, and they're afraid it's going to overflow and go into the river because the system is not adequately designed and maybe under capacity. But it's not at full capacity, or it's not at even half capacity right now. So it seems like, what we're asked here to do is to approve a tentative map, which they've provided tentative map requirements, and we're supposed to look at it with recommendation. Usually we get like a letter of intent to serve, which we don't have because they're saying that they can't guarantee that they will be able to serve in the future because they need to make improvements, but they haven't made any improvements. So it seems to me that approving the tentative map and letting them, apply for permits is the right course of events to happen. They need to fix their system somehow, but I don't know how they're going to do it. But that's not really our job either. That's their job. So I'm in favor of moving it forward.
Me too.
So,
Make a motion?
you want to make a motion?
I will.
Did you have some?
Yeah, some things.
I
like
wanted to add a couple of condition number 19. The third paragraph down says half the required right-of-way. I wanted to change that to half of the 60-foot right-of-way width, and then strike the words per the county's transportation element to be consistent with other projects and what the reality of Southside Road. And then on number 18, the applicant has requested that we include the option of entering into a deferred improvement agreement with regard to the improvements. And it is my understanding that there may be reason for the county to wish to. The county may not want those improvements right now anyway. So, but leaving the option open for the county engineer. So if you could add the language, the applicant shall enter into a deferred improvement agreement or bond for or make the following roadway improvements. And that gives the flexibility to the county and the applicant
At the
to
county's
choose.
discretion.
At the county engineer's discretion, yes.
Okay, is that it, Byron?
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion that the Planning Commission approve major subdivision TSM 13-87 and TSM 13-88 with the, based upon the findings contained in the staff report, including that that the subdivision is consistent with San Benito County General Plan and any applicable specific plan, and with the changes as noted to conditions 18, 19, and condition number 1 regarding indemnification and the inclusion of financial assurances. I would, however, as a part of my motion, I would say that the financial assurances should be triggered upon the filing of a petition for writ of mandate after after any potential appeal to the Board of Supervisors and not prior to that.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All against?
No.
No.
Okay. That's the next item.
This decision is appealable to the Board of Supervisors through the clerk of the board's office within 10 days of this decision.
Yeah,
Brigantino next?
yeah, Brigantino's next. It's a public workshop.
Huh?
Public workshop? It's just a public hearing item?
Except what? Yeah. Should we take a break?
You want to take a break?
They're-
Byron, can take a 5-minute break?
You know, I don't disagree with a single word you said, especially.
That makes a big difference when you have a
You guys ready? Byron, ready?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to go to item number 4.
Okay. Yes.
Go ahead.
The purpose of this item is to provide a public forum to take any public comment on the draft EIR for tentative subdivision map 14-91 and zone change 14-81. It's designed to take public comment on the environmental document only and from the public. Normally, I don't do this at the Planning Commission because there's no role for the Planning Commission except for to hear the public speak. But there's no decision to be made tonight, and we're not debating the merits of the project or the adequacy of the environmental document. So I have provided you with a copy of the draft EIR. Hang on to that because you're going to need it for the next time that this item is on your agenda, when it will be agendized for a decision. It is a 200-unit single-family residential subdivision located on 44 acres off of Southside Road and Hospital Road. We anticipate this to come to the Planning Commission in early 2016. You have a copy of the EIR. It's been available to the public for 45 days. So if there's any members of the public now who would like to speak and comment on the draft environmental document, staff would like to hear them now.
Okay, so public comment's open. Anybody to speak on that Sunnyside Estates project? No cards?
And we keep this open?
Well, this is not, this is...
Workshop.
It's not really a public
Okay.
hearing of the Planning Commission. You don't even really need to be here.
So I have a question. So where can the public get copies of this
It is on the county website. It's also
humongous thing?
Yes, it's on the county website. It is also available at the library and at the planning department.
Okay, and maybe front counter here?
Should be out there too, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Byron, I noticed there's some lots pretty small. Is the county headed that way? I don't particularly like small lots.
Well, the sewer line that's located there can accommodate lots of that size, and the zoning change request that they are requesting can accommodate lots of that size.
5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But I think the commissioner's question, if I'm hearing you correctly, is a little bit more philosophical in nature, meaning the other day I got lost in Gilroy over by Gavilan somewhere, like over on that whole west side. And I don't know if you guys have seen these new houses they're building over there. First of all, there's thousands of them. Secondly, these houses are huge. They look like they're at least 2,000 square feet plus, but they have no yards. They have no backyard. They have no side yards. They have no front yard. Is that the product that's being turned out by Kaufman and Broad and home builders these days?
That's consistent with a lot of the applications that we have, yes.
And isn't that issue covered in our lot coverage ordinance?
We do have lot coverage requirements in our ordinance, but that is something that we look at as part of the project review.
Okay. So we're not going to change our lot coverage or our lot sizes or setbacks or anything like that anytime soon?
Not unless this commission directs us to look back at it, but we just adopted a new general plan which covers what types of development and what zoning and what zone should go, and we do have different zones to accommodate different types.
Right.
In fact, as part of our housing element, we've had some discussions with the state, and there may be an opinion out there that we're not dense enough to accommodate affordable housing. So we might be having that discussion with the commission pretty soon in the context of the housing element.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put a value judgment on. I'm just noticing that the change in the industry.
Yes.
It absolutely seems to be a trend. And what I've heard is that a lot of these Silicon Valley types don't like mowing their lawns or putting a swing set in the backyard. They like to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to work and get home at 8, and they could care less if they have a garden in the back or something, you know. So there's not a lot of value, I guess, to these yards, whereas developers have value in the product itself, right, Ray? So the more square feet you could sell of home, the more money you make?
Well, you're close, but no cigar. So the problem is 85% of the household water goes to your outside of your house, not to the inside of the house.
85%?
85% of water goes to the landscaping. Okay, so, and we're just coming out of this drought and just finally started kicking in as a trend of the lower lots. So you probably find, like you're, Byron, saying, two reasons. One is lack of water. The other one is the smaller the lot, the more affordable the house could be in environments. And so it's looking to address those two unique things.
But what drives sales price more, or is it equal? The square footage of the lot, or the number of square feet in the house itself?
Okay, 3 words in real estate. Thank you, Marty. Location, location, location. You can buy a condo in San Francisco for $10 million, or you can buy one here for, okay, but all houses are appraised based on square footage of the unit itself.
The residence.
Yeah, you can adjust a little bit for a larger lot or a swimming pool, or there's some adjustments for those things. Once you get into acreage, now we're in a whole different element.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm referring more to the lot width. I mean, 40-foot wide lots is kind of small.
40 or 50?
There's some 40-foots on.
Well, they're going smaller even.
Yeah.
And Byron, can't you lay down a PUD and actually make the lot smaller in a PUD environment? Is everyone shaking their head yes?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So you could actually get your lot smaller in the county, just overlay a PUD, and it's only subject to that PUD area, so it doesn't reflect in zoning countywide. Okay? If you want to see what it looks like, drive over behind Kmart. There's a new project going in there, and the lots are 26, 28. All of the houses are 2-story because that's the only way you could put the square footage on there. And they're very little yard, but they're walkable. So, and then, cars are going to be an issue too. Where you park?
Is that the one on the right as you're heading south that has your sign on it?
We weren't supposed to say that.
Hypothetically.
Yes. But that is something, density level in the city that actually the city required. The developer did not want to go that dense. The city did. So, yeah, there's a trend thing going to smaller lots.
I think there is a trend.
Yeah, there's a little project there by Lucky Store. The lots are real small, and they're 2-story homes, 1,500 square feet. The little circle there right behind Lucky's, the gated community.
Yeah, what's that?
I used to live there. So
yeah.
You can't have big cars.
Yeah, you can only have a couple.
Yep. You can't have a pickup.
There's no public comment.
You got to have a small car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing to comment.
Marty wanted to...
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. Okay. I know you asked for comments first, but you expanded this discussion, so I wanted to get my 3 minutes in and answer your question. And somebody already answered it. It's water. It's 85%, or if it's 75 or 80%, it doesn't make any difference. It's vastly more than you use in the house.
Yeah.
So you can't have a lawn. The other issue is, the other reason the lots are shrinking is that they found out that if you have a small front lawn, a really small front lawn, then you have more of a neighborhood effect because people live closer to the sidewalk.
Huh?
And so you tend to know your neighbors, and you tend to take care of the community. And whereas if you have a big front lawn, you're set back on the property, and so that whole thing, and the density also goes to public transportation. The only way public transportation works is if you have a high density. You can't have public transportation that's efficient if you got big lots and big houses separated by a lot. Mm-hmm. But people don't want to give up the square footage, so the only answer is you get a small lot, you go to 2 stories, right. And that's the answer. And as far as how the cost factor works is, I contacted somebody who was building houses here who talked a couple of years ago about impact fees, and I was under the mistaken impression that the fact we had high impact fees was cramping their style. And this developer told me very frankly, he says, doesn't make any difference, you got the same impact fees at Gilroy. He said, you know what the difference is? He said, no, he says, I can get $100,000 more for the same house in Gilroy. This was 5 years ago. He was very frank. He said, we had the same impact fees, doesn't matter. I get $100,000 more for a house in Gilroy. So the old joke about location is, remember I told you about the drive on Route 25 when I started today? You don't have that if you live in Gilroy. You don't have that last 45 minutes on a rainy night. That makes all the difference. So thank you for your time, and small lots are the future.
I think
right
so.
now.
Looks like it is.
Tiny homes too, huh?
No, big houses.
No, this commission didn't like the idea of tiny homes.
They're sprawling all over America, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Affordable.
we're gonna be here for.
You know, actually, it's not so much affordable, Pat. It's really kind of a lifestyle thing of called essentialism, and so it's people that want to live not the big bling and have stuff everywhere. They want to live simply and less, and pack it all in a 200 square foot house
Or less.
or less.
Just a
Crazy,
12-foot trailer. or
Two
something like that.
bedrooms. Can you think of that? Yeah.
Do we need to close this last item, or?
Are we ready for a motion for adjournment, or?
So we're keeping the workshop open. It's review process. We can
Okay.
close. Okay.
We're good?
So I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas, everyone.